Vanishes and breaking tonight. Investigators say they have solved her murder some 43 years later. The sheriff's office says this was the oldest cold case murder to be solved by the department.
In 1979, a 12-year-old girl's planned day at the pool turned into a torturous murder investigation that lasted more than 40 years. In the Alicia Michelle Jackson case, thanks to more cutting-edge investigative methods, the unwavering support of the girl's family, and the police force's ability to move mountains, justice has finally been done for this young girl's death. Let's have a deep look at the oldest cold case finally solved in 2022, Conroe. In Conroe, Texas, Alicia's story starts. It's a small town with a lot of charm that is situated in Montgomery County, Texas, about 40 miles outside of Houston. Lesia's disappearance, along with her mother, Laura Kay, stepfather Charles Hirsch, stepbrother Kirk Hirsch, and two biological brothers named Sean and Larry, Alicia Jackson called this place home. She was a successful student at Washington Junior High. She had blonde hair, and her signature light blue rimmed glasses made her stand out from the crowd. On this particular day, September 7, 1979, 12-year-old Alicia and her two brothers, Sean and Larry, were heading there to cool off and hang out. It was a warm, beautiful day. Wildwood Lake and its nearby swimming pool area were popular hangout spots for families, kids, and teens. They were joined by their cousins, as well as a few of their closest friends, for fun in the sun. Excursions in the 1970s had very different ideas about daily safety than they do now. It was common for kids to walk places by themselves or with friends, take rides with strangers, or visit other people's homes unattended. The additional challenge of not having constant contact was present because mobile phones were not yet commonplace. The group spent the entire day swimming and having fun, but before they knew it, it was getting close to sunset at around 7 p.m. Everyone made the decision to wrap things up and start heading home because they didn't want to miss curfew or be late for dinner. However, Lesia was having too much fun and didn't want to go home, even though her two brothers, Sean and Larry, were aware that the swimming area was widely recognized by the neighborhood as being secure. They started trekking home without their sister as a result. Laura Kay, the mother of the trio, noticed that only the boys had entered through the front door and immediately inquired about their sister. They told her that they thought she would be home in an hour and might be right behind them. After a short while, with no sign of Lesia's return home, this naturally left a bad taste in Laura's mouth, as it would for any worried parent. Charles Hirsch, her stepfather, made the decision to act. He was worried, but not yet concerned that she might be in danger. He went over to the swimming pool area, hoping to see her and tell her to come home. But the more he looked, the more he came to the conclusion that his daughter was nowhere to be found. Charles and Laura's parental adrenaline began to kick in, and when the initial search for their daughter proved unsuccessful, they took matters into their own hands. They began driving the streets of the subdivision where the swimming area was and kept an eye out for their daughter. When they discovered she was no longer with any of them, they decided to take the next step and visit their relatives and friends' homes to see if anyone had heard from or seen her. When they discovered she was no longer with any of them, they realized their daughter was missing. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office received a missing persons report for Alicia Jackson. Given the urgency of a missing child, Sheriff Deputy L.B. Robinson was quickly assigned to the case. Bobby Hill was one of the first people the detective spoke with. He claimed that before the group left without her, he had last seen Lesia sitting on the pier wearing a pink swimsuit with either a white or yellow shirt and blue shorts with red trim on top of it. He also recalled that while returning from the lake, he was Alicia's friend and was the last to have seen her. He and his friends observed a brown Monte Carlo driving erratically and nearly hitting them as it passed them several times. Detective Robinson became suspicious of the incident and questioned Alicia's brothers, cousins, and other friends and family members. In an effort to find out where she might be, They made their way down to the swimming area. When the search failed to locate her, they quickly came to the logical conclusion that she might have been abducted by the man driving the brown car. The detective immediately called headquarters for additional support. As word of Alicia's disappearance spread throughout the small town, the police quickly realized how adored this girl was. Nearly 24 volunteers from the local fire department joined the search, and this case may now be upgraded to one of abduction. The next day, as the search continued, the sheriff's Marine Division came forward wanting to make sure they covered all investigative bases before assuming that Alicia had been abducted for one. It had been possible that she could have drowned in the swimming area as the kids were all there unsupervised. The group searched widely until 2 a.m. that night, but still came up with almost no trace of Alicia in or around the town. They searched the swimming area in great detail. Still, no sign of Alicia in the woods and pier by the lake. The first person to discover a clue was Kirk Hirsch, Alicia's older stepbrother. He was searching the area near the intersection of Creekwood Street and Deep Forest Drive, 2 blocks from where Alicia was last seen, when he discovered a pair of black, thick-rimmed glasses lying on the road. The glasses had damage consistent with that would happen to a pair of glasses if they were struck by a car. They were Alicia's, and Kirk and his family were aware of this. The family sought assistance from the local optometrist who had prescribed Alicia's glasses, and they were able to positively identify the set as being Alicia's. This was heartbreaking news for the family, as they now had to get ready for the outcome they most dread. James Wiley Dawson, an employee of Exxon Gas Company, was out on a special assignment on September 13, a little less than a week after Alicia vanished. He had been sent out to fix a pipeline issue along Exxon Road. As soon as he arrived at the road, which was only about a half-mile from the lake, he noticed the strong smell of decomposition in the air, but he assumed it was the smell of a dead animal. The smell proved to be too distracting, so he gave finding the dead animal priority. However, James Dawson instead came across what appeared to be a naked, severely decomposed body of a girl. Detectives rushed to the scene after he immediately called the city police. Texas is infamous for being oppressively hot and humid during that time of year. They had to move quickly to gather evidence because the body was in an advanced state of decomposition. Officers were aware that this might be Alicia's body, but they had to take precautions to secure the scene and gather all relevant evidence from the body and the surrounding area. Everyone at the crime scene soon learned the information they had been dreading, including the tracks discovered nearby as the investigation went on. Near the body were clothes matching the alleged outfit in which the young girl was last seen. They later confirmed the remains of those of Lesia through DNA testing after they were discovered scattered nearby her naked body. This was a heartbreaking discovery for Michelle Jackson's grieving family and friends, as well as the police. The subsequent autopsy revealed that Alicia had died horribly. Her signature blue glasses were obviously not with her, but her favorite gold butterfly necklace was still around her neck when she passed away, indicating that she had displayed signs of sexual assault as semen samples were discovered on her shirt. Soon after her passing, Lesia Marie Jackson's family and friends held a private funeral service for her. As soon as the memories of their lost loved one faded, her mourning family left Conroe and eventually Montgomery County altogether. The kidnapping and murder case was left unsolved because it was too painful to relive every day after their departure. Lesia and her family would receive justice, according to the police. Police set up a phone line specifically for tip submissions and urged anyone with information that might be relevant to the investigation to call. One tip in particular caught their attention. When questioned, the tipster revealed that the victim was a Vietnam veteran and a well-known heroin addict who had been seen divulging intimate details of the crime to others. In shocking details that could not have been made public, he also reportedly frequently requested that his friends set him up with neighborhood girls. He didn't mean grown women his age. he meant young girls. Using the information provided by the tip, police were put on high alert. The moment they got hold of him, they arrested him on suspicion of murder. However, there was a twist. He claimed to have an accomplice who assisted him in the murder of Lesia Jackson. They used standard police interrogation techniques until he broke and confessed to the crime. When the man told the police about his accomplice, the police quickly took both men into custody and began questioning them thoroughly. This was the physical evidence that police needed to charge these two with murder, especially since they already had a signed written confession from the Vietnam veteran suspect. But another twist was to come after the red fibers were found in the homes of both suspects. Police obtained search warrants for both of their residences and conducted thorough searches where they discovered red fibers that were similar to those found on Lesia's shorts on the day that she was killed. The suspect who signed the confession said that he had been subjected to police brutality while he was in jail awaiting questioning, and that police had forced him to write the confession. Officers adamantly denied the claims of police brutality and coercion, but it was too late. These claims were taken seriously because even those who are in custody have legal rights, and soon the FBI intervened to conduct a more thorough investigation. As there was already a court case in the works, sadly, due to the claims in the court case to follow all evidence discovered by investigators, such as the written confession and red fibers, could no longer be upheld in court, rendering the extremely damning evidence useless. In the end, the judge also ruled that the charge of murder was to be dropped for both suspects. These two men were then released without so much as a warning, which was yet another devastating blow to Lesia's family. Tommy DeRoy, a former classmate of Lesia's, joined the Texas police force in the year 2006 and eventually rose to the position of detective on the cold case squad. Despite his claims that he did not know Lesia personally, the case was personal to him, and he yearned to provide the Jackson family with closure after all this time and grieving together with them. Tommy DeRoy knew that some 40 years had passed since the murder and that DNA technology had greatly improved since the original investigation, meaning that there was better hope for the matching of a suspect. DeRoy sent the semen and other samples found on the clothing back in to Detective Terrence Greenwood, another cold case investigator on the force, and the work and diving back into this case began. All of this meant that they had to find other crucial evidence to solve this crime on their own, because the clock had been ticking for far too long and hope was dwindling. Witnesses from that day in September 1979 had moved away or passed away or forgotten the details of that fateful day. Lesia's family had already moved far away from Texas at this point in an attempt to move on. Recently, in 2018, Courtney Fisher, an ABC 13 reporter, rekindled interest in the Lesia Jackson cold case with a story that was reminiscent of cold case. In 2022, investigators had to adapt to the fact that more advanced forensic DNA techniques were now available and aided in the rapid resolution of crimes. The police heeded her counsel. The term MVAC refers to a contemporary technology that describes a procedure in which DNA-free buffers are sprayed directly into surfaces that are being tested, followed by the application of vacuum pressure to obtain the best DNA sample possible. This technology is a major advancement and can obtain much better samples than those obtained through conventional swabbing. Everyone was hoping that this would be the case's turning point, and in October 2021, the Montgomery County Cold Case Homicide Squad tested the MVAC method by retesting DNA from Lesia's shirt from 1979. 43 years after the murder, a DNA match for the perpetrator was discovered. The FBI's CODA system was used to analyze the DNA sample, and once a man named Gerald Dwight Casey was identified as a 100% match, detectives made yet another shocking discovery, because it turned out that Casey was already well known to the police. Gerald Dwight Casey was a well-known felon with a string of convictions for burglary, assault on a police officer, possession of heroin and marijuana. Surprisingly, but perhaps not surprisingly, Casey had also previously been found guilty of capital murder before his 1991 conviction for a murder that had taken place in 1989. Investigators compared the DNA found on Lesia's shirt to a blood sample taken from Casey prior to his state execution, and the 100 match was confirmed. 10 years after he had murdered Lesia Jackson, Casey had been executed by lethal injection in Texas on April 18, 2002, at the age of 47. As he left death row after a protracted period behind bars and made his way to the lethal injection chamber, this man was Lesia's murderer once more. Since Casey apparently had no regrets, and no one knew at the time what other crimes he had committed before his death, he declined to say anything in his final moments. Gerald Dwight Casey did not live long enough to receive just compensation for what he had done to Lesia Michelle Jackson, but at least he was punished and is no longer capable of harming others. Although finding out who killed Lesia was a momentous occasion, the news was, of course, still sad for Lesia's family and friends. Although they frequently declined to discuss the case any further in public, they frequently thanked the police for never giving up on her. Since they were content with the outcome, they have largely remained anonymous. Modern advances in DNA research continue in detective work, and decades of hope solve this case. Whether you believe in karma, fate, the afterlife, or spiritual deity, justice was finally served in this cold case for a different murder by the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. It is reasonable to assume that one can only hope that Gerald Casey, wherever he may be at the moment, is receiving his cosmic punishment, and that Lesia Jackson can now rest in peace. Justice was served, and as forensic technology advances, more and more murderers will be brought to justice. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Thanks for watching.